Okay, so we've been talking about groups in this part of the course. And remember, I just defined that a group, by definition, is any collection of two or more people who interact with some frequency and who share a sense that their identity is somehow aligned with that group. Those two criteria are very important. And just like when we were talking about the self, as being sort of distinguishable, unique, and even in its individualized sort of sense, is that we only come to understand ourselves through social interaction as distinct from others. I personally think that that's an amazing concept, that I can't even be sort of individually myself without recognizing that my individual self is connected to others. Well, that's very similar to in talking about groups. That interaction is important, right? We know that we construct reality through our interactions, or we've said that we understand our place in the world, our statuses, our roles through our interactions because we're part of one another's role sets. Um, we use our primary groups to socialize us. We interact with our secondary groups to understand how or be able to accomplish tasks one way or the other. But one of the things, even when we were talking about a triad, as that group gets bigger, there's more opportunities for more innovation, more input, more, the group becomes stable enough because it's not going to break up with the loss of a single person, for instance. But you can sort of start to lose yourself in a group. You can start to lose your own sense of personal identity the larger that group gets, for instance. Even our concept of identity is related to some of the things that we understand about groups. And so there's at least three things that I want to share with you about groups and identity. The first of them is the distinction between an in-group and an out-group. An in-group is simply a group that a person belongs to and feels that it is an integral part of his or her identity. And that could be like, I am a member of a sorority. I am a member of this particular church. I am a member of this particular protest group, for instance. I am part of that group. I am in that group. As a juxtaposition, the out group is any group that an individual is not a part of. And part of that sense of belonging that you get for your in group is recognizing that you are in this group and not in that group, right? And sometimes that difference or that juxtaposition between your in group and your out group is kind of in opposition to the out group. You say, this is my sorority. I am part of this group. Very particularly, I am not part of that group. And you might even understand yourself as part of this group, and we do things a certain way, not like those other people. So that sense of belonging, that affirmation in that group is sometimes in competition with, very severe competition or even just fun competition, trash talking here or there. Or it could even just be a disdain for that other group in particular. They don't have to be rigidly defined groups. One of the examples that I like to give is, what if you are part of the unpopular kids at middle school, right? Your in group is part of the unpopular group, right? The out group are the popular kids, the non-unpopular kids group, because you're not in that group. So you are in the group that you're in, and you're not in the out group. You can flip that around. You can be part of the popular group. That would be your in group. And the unpopular kids would be in the out group. The reason why that sense of belonging is important, or the reason why we understand or want to understand that when it comes to identity, for instance, is that you can be in a group that you don't want to be in, right? You can be part of the unpopular kids group, and what you want to be is part of what's the out group right now. I'm in this one, but I want to be in that one. For the time being, this is my out group, this is my in group, and that's my out group. I might want internally to swap it so that I'm in that group, and then that becomes my in group, and then this one, the unpopular one, becomes my out one, right? So you might oppose that other one, but you might also want to be in that other one. So there's nothing sort of inherent in the in group versus the out group as good or bad. Don't use in this way as like in style or the popular one, for instance. That's why I like to use that one as the example. It's just the group that the person belongs to and feels it's an integral part of their identity. I'm kind of in it, either because I want to be or because I'm stuck in it, or maybe it's ascribed and I'm in it and I didn't choose it. And I might even want to be in the other one, for instance. The other distinction that I want to make about that in groups and out groups is what we call a reference group. A reference group is a group that an individual compares himself to. Same thing, that group doesn't have to be rigidly defined. For instance, you might be part of the unpopular kids group, right? And you might use the popular kids group as your reference. So you might say, I want to talk like they talk. I want to act like they act. I want to wear the clothes that they wear. I want to join the activities that they join because I'm using that group as my reference as to how I want to be. On the flip side, you might be a good person, for instance, and those are the mean kids. And you might say, I do not want to do what they do. I do not want to act like them. I do not want to be associated with them in any way. So then I will do the opposite, right? And so it's not even just, again, these rigid barriers. It doesn't even have to be a formal organization. When I say the popular kids and the not popular kids, I'm not talking about necessarily the cheerleaders and the football team and the yearbook club and the newspaper crew. It doesn't have to be formalized at all in any particular manner. It's just what you recognize as your in group versus your out group and what you use as a reference. The other thing that's really important about that when we talk about group membership and identity is that not only do these not have to be like rigidly defined formal groupings, for instance, they can even be something that you've imagined, right? You can be the kid or the person that says, no, nobody likes me. I don't have any friends. And your actual friends might be saying, what are you talking about? You have friends all over this place. And you might feel like, no, I'm part of the group that doesn't have any friends. Could be completely made up in your mind, right? But you might find that part of your identity if you feel alone, for instance. The people who you might want to be like might not even exist, for instance, or they might be imaginary or they might be fictional. As a young person, you might say, when I grow up, I'm going to be the mother, I'm going to be a mom like such and such on this show, right? Doesn't even have to be a real person. It's just a representation of motherhood. And you say, when I'm a mom, I want to be like that. That would be your reference. Similarly, your own parent might be your reference and say, when I'm a mom, I don't want to do those things. So the thing that you reference, it's not even necessarily the thing that you aspire to be. It could be the thing you aspire to not be like. It can be an imagination of things. It can be a construct that you've determined. It's very important to me as an adult that I'm the kind of person that X, Y, and Z. You may not have ever met a group of people, for instance, that are like that, but you've constructed that group to be your reference. So your reference group is not exactly a group that you are in or out. It could be. Most importantly, it's a standard of measurement. It's something that you're using to understand how you are or how you want to be or how you don't want to be. And when we talk about groups and identity, this is when the term conformity matters, because conformity, by definition, is just the extent to which an individual complies with the group or the society norms and expectations, right? So, whatever you consider to be your in group, the thing that the in group that you are a part of does, those are the things that are expected of you, and you will either conform and do those things or not conform because you want to be somewhere else, maybe, or you want to push the boundaries, for instance. And it's not just then for whatever group we're talking about, the in group or the out group. Again, you might not conform with your in group because you really want to be a part of the out group. Like you may be in a group of really nice people, but you really want to hang out with the mean kids. So instead of conforming and doing nice things, you might do mean things because I want to get their attention. That's the group I want to be in. Those are the people who I am referencing, for instance. I want that to be my in group, not the in group that I have right now. We, as social beings, generally want to fit in. We want to find our place. That whole socialization process that we talked about, trying to figure out what our statuses are and our roles and what's expected of us, it's because we want to fit in. And typically, we will conform in the ways that we want to fit in. And even when we're trying to individualize ourselves, again, in the expression of our distinct and unique identity, we will sometimes only choose to not conform just enough to stand out, but stand out in the right ways. I'm not going to make any great big grand fashion sort of things to make people pay attention to me unless they're going to pay attention to me in a good way. Then I might push the boundaries, for instance. I might not want to conform, but not enough to risk my membership in my in group, for instance, or not enough to risk not being able to appease or get the attention that I want from that out group that I'm interested in. So that's why groups matter in terms of that alignment in the sense of identity. Even still, don't you find that interesting? We're still talking about individuals and their identity and their individual self, and it's contextualized with what we understand about the whole of society, a whole lot of people all at once. I think that's pretty cool. Thanks for watching.